Om Bandra Sadwa Samaya Manu Balaya Bandra Sadwa Denu Bai Dildra Dedo Membawa Soto Kayo Membawa Zubu Kayo Membawa Anorado Membawa Ezrawa Sede Mebraya Sarwa Krama Suzame Zedan Shreya Kuru Ha 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 ho bhagavan sarvata gata badra mame monza branje bhava mahasamaya.
We start on page 1 with the opening recitation, which is the aspiration bodhicitta and action bodhicitta vows, followed by taking refuge, and then generating the four immeasurables, then invoking the presence of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, all the objects of refuge, into the space in front of us. Then the short mantras to present the 8 offerings, and then mandala offering and the 7-fold offering in brief. So these are the elements of the opening recitations. Over time, you will get more and more familiar with this if you are not already familiar. As much as, I think, relatively speaking, say in Tibetan Buddhism, there is indeed a lot of explanations that can be given, in part because there is a strong element of the scholastic tradition which Tibetans inherited from India through the Nalanda tradition. But likewise, there is also a tradition that emphasizes not giving too much time and space, and especially mental space, to explanations, because then we run the risk of simply filing away all this information, and filing them away, this information, and then drawing the wrong conclusions, thinking that, oh, I got this information, now I know how to file away this information, I have a place to put it in my logical, rational world, and so now I'm good, I'm safe. I got it, that is the danger. But usually that's not the case. It only means that our neurotic self have been satisfied that, oh, things are under control now. Now I have memorized this, so then it's there. And so this is the Kusali criticism. So there are two paths of, two kind of possible paths to approach the process of waking up. One is called the Pandita style, which is the scholar style, and one is called the Kusali style. And so these two, of these two, Gyöpa Jigten Sumgön says, our Kagyu tradition, our Kagyu lineage, actually belong to the Kusali style rather than the Pandita style. But somewhere along the way, in some ways, the Pandita style has kind of captured the narrative. So then there is a tendency, stronger than, say, other forms of Buddhism, I would say, where the Pandita hovering is very present, We don't need to pick a fight, between these two, or even set up a fight for these two. No, we don't need to do that. We just need to appreciate, right, the insights that the Pandita style can bring for us, which necessarily, I think, for many of us, the Pandita style probably is what brought us to Dharma practice. That, I think, is fair to admit, that the Pandita way, where there seems to be explanation for everything that we do, down to like, why does that deity has, 20,000 hair in his eyebrows, oh, because, and so on and so forth, So while, the Pandita style, there are reasons for this and for that, and there are explanations. We, especially practicing Mahamudra of the Kagyu lineage, it's good to adopt more and more the spirit of the Kusali style. The Kusali style can also have its dangers, which is it's easy to just kind of not pay attention to anything and think, oh, I'm following the Kusali style. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing. And then they mistake that and say, oh, that's the Kusali style. The Kusali style is not so much about, oh, I don't know, I don't need to know. But rather to work with, I would say, the unknowability, that feeling of, I don't know what's going on. And yes, on one level, I don't know what's going on can be solved by, to some degree, making efforts to know. But on the other hand, when I don't know what's going on, especially as it pertains to Dharma practice, or as it pertains to practicing together as a group, I don't know what's going on. Following the Kusali style, when that comes up, even if you register, oh, maybe I can put more effort into knowing. Good. That itself is not a problem. You can do that. But in the next moment, use that as an opportunity and say, so what is this knowing what's going on? What am I really seeking when I say I want to know what's going on? I want to know exactly where we are. What is this about? Then we begin to see our insecurities, our need, perhaps, may not be true for everyone, but perhaps our need to put everything, into these kind of clearly defined boxes so that we have a sense of control. And this is how we deal with impermanence, which is, of course, a false solution to the reality of impermanence. So then we begin to work with, right, the uncertainties, and we begin to work with how the way to proceed is to, with faith, with conviction, with devotion, plunge into it. Do it first. Apply the method with a little bit of understanding of what the method is. Then apply the method, apply the method, apply the method. Then insights may start to dawn. Insights that cannot be given to you. Insights that only arise as a result of you doing the practice, and in doing the practice, polishing away, clearing away the things that are obscuring your understanding. Then these are insights that even, Gilbert Rinpoche says, these are insights that sometimes, you cannot speak upwards to anyone about it, and it will be unseemly, he says, to speak downwards to anyone about it. Unseemly in the sense of don't show off, Unable to speak to above, meaning even to your gurus, may not be possible for you to say to them what now you have experienced. So this is how we should approach the spirit in which we should approach our practice. So if we have this habit of like a child, why? You cannot silence this. Why? But you can shine a light on. What is this? What is this need? What is this incessant need? Have I dressed up this neurotic need to ask why? Have I dressed it up to make it look like it belongs on the path? I say, well, Buddha says you should know everything. But that doesn't mean, that you should have words to neatly file away everything. Buddha doesn't mean that. When Buddha says, you should know what you're doing, he's talking about know from your heart, Not know with concepts, not know with words, much less waiting and hoping someone will just give us the goods. So, with regards to that kind of experience, don't ask. Keep going, keep practicing, keep paying attention, keep seeing the qualities of your practice arising. Pay attention. Then in your mind, pray to the Guru Principle, pray to Buddha Shakyamuni, pray to Kyoba Jigten Sumgen, pray to Guru Rinpoche, pray to Lady Tara for guidance. Pray from your heart for guidance as you let these qualities arise. Don't need to try to explain these qualities to yourself, to others. Not yet, at least. Until it stabilizes. Yourself, you will discover more. In other words, chew the food yourself. At the beginning, like a bird feeding baby birds, Mommy bird has to chew, yum, 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 and baby bird open their mouth, and mother bird, but you have to grow, You have to chew the food yourself. The first few times, right? Not chewing enough in a hurry, you try to swallow, you suffer some indigestion. That is the part of growing. Don't fear these minor mistakes that we do. But even these mistakes, they are precious. Right? Then, slowly learn how to chew. Depending on how you chew on this food, you can taste different flavors. Those flavors cannot really be explained. Upwards to your gurus, and unseemly to explain to downwards those who are not there. Make them jealous that you are getting this taste, or make them disbelieve you. Like, it's just, that guy just likes to talk. So, the Kusali way, in contrast to the Pandita way. The Pandita way, needs to explain everything. In that sense, the Kusali way, in kind of in comparison, sort of certain flavors of the Zen tradition, very much it's like the Kusali way. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Now, page 6, or maybe page 5. Some of you have PDFs that are on page 5, around 5 and 6. Refuge. And the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood. For the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness, may they be liberated from suffering, and the causes of suffering, may they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness, may they be liberated from suffering, and the causes of suffering, may they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness, may they be liberated from suffering, and the causes of suffering, May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Bajra Samaja, Bajra Samaja, Bajra Samaja. Protectors of all sentient beings without exception, deities who vanquish the ruthless hordes of Maras, knowers of everything as it is. Bhagavans and your retinues, please come here. Argyam Padyam Pushpe Dupe Aloke Gende Nevede Shabda Pratitya Soha. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, 4 continents, sun and moon, I hold in mind as a Buddha land, and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure realm. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to completed Bodhi. Now please look at the general laying aside text. I also want to say, after those opening comments, you should continue to ask questions, really. All of that is not to say don't ask questions, in fact, in case I've terrified you into not asking. But what it is saying is, when you ask questions, certain questions, if I don't answer, maybe I'm in a bad mood. I mean, that happens, right? But most of the time, you should take a cue from me not answering that question. Then you know, he wants me to chew on that particular mouthful, rather than him chewing it, pre-digesting with his saliva and spitting into my mouth. Because, if you carry that analogy even further, the enzymes that your digestive system might need, you cannot get completely from me. You need to chew yourself. But sometimes you don't know, right? So you keep asking. You keep asking. And then if I answer, if my answer, is not what you are expecting, then I'm not saying, that you accept the answer that that I gave without being thinking about it. So that's also not the point. The point is not to blindly to encourage blind faith. It's not about that. It's about the nature of asking, the nature of answering, and then the limits of asking. And the Guru is finally to be discovered within yourself. But before we all get there, we rely on the outer Gurus. Then we need to know how to rely on the outer Gurus. Now, page 1 of the laying aside. I've already talked about the overall concept of confession in the Buddhist tradition. So literally, to shak, to is to expose, shak is to lay, put aside. So this is the exposing and laying aside practice. So here it says, you address, so let's do this, and I will pause at every part to briefly say a few words. Allah's great Guru, Vajra holder, and you, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who reside in the 10 directions and 3 times. I, who am called Kunja Yishid Dorje, supplicate you, turn your awakened attention to me. So you address Vajradhara, who is our Guru, the innate nature of our mind, who now for us is manifesting as someone outside of us. And to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, 10 directions, basically the 4 cardinal directions, then the intermediate directions, then below and above. When we're doing practices, when it says 10 directions, when it says things like, imagine or visualize 10 directions. Just like last night, we meditated, we cultivated metta at the center at Urban Dharma by relying on this chant called the chant of metta. So in there, it says in the eastern direction, in the western direction, in the southern direction, right? When you're doing practices like that, by the way, these directions are not, don't need to be literally eastern direction. And then you're sitting there going, I know, maybe not all of you at all, but there will be 1 or 2 of you going, eastern direction. Oh, wait, where is eastern direction? So mentally, right, you're running around. You're like, oh, the sun is over there. I think it's over there, actually. Well, maybe, I think I felt like maybe it's coming from over there, Then sitting there instead of like doing the practice, you think you need to get, exactly your compass out to figure out what the directions are. No, actually. Where is east? Always in front of you. Where is south? Always to your right. Where is west? Always behind you. Where is north? Always to your left. So these directions, it's again, it's not like you are now a pilot or even a driver being given directions. Now go east, you're like, okay, where is east, In front of you is east, yeah? So then I supplicate you, turn your awakened attention to me. So the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Guru Vajradhara, turn their attention to you. From beginningless samsaric time until this very moment, under the power of the afflictive emotions, attachment, aggression, confusion, pride, and jealousy, I have committed the 10 non-virtuous actions through the gates of my body, speech, and mind. So here, through the power driven by the afflictive emotions, these are the 5 root afflictive emotions. Attachment, aggression, confusion, pride, and jealousy. Of these 5, confusion is the kind of the root. Then it gives rise to attachment and aggression, and then from there pride and jealousy arise, and from there the 84,000 forms of kleshas develop. The 10 non-virtuous actions, 3 that are physically through the gate, so the 3 gates of body, speech, and mind, meaning physical actions, verbal actions, mental, emotional actions. So there are 3 that pertains to physical actions: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. 4 that pertains to speech: deceptive speech, destructive speech, divisive speech, distracted speech. And then 3 that pertains to the mind: to covet, to have a mind that is, occupied with harm, aggression, and then wrong views. So these are the 10 non-virtuous actions. So by the power driven by the kleshas, the afflictive emotions, we have again and again chosen these unskillful ways of acting. I've committed the 5 heinous crimes and the 5 secondary heinous crimes. These are things that I dare say, within this lifetime, we have not done. Maybe in previous lifetimes we may have, but within this lifetimes we have not done. Like the 5 heinous are called the actions that immediately hurl us into the hell realms. They say, killing father, killing mother, killing an arhat, causing Buddha to bleed, and destroying, like dividing, causing dissension within the monastic community, leading to the breakup of the monastic community. These are the heinous crimes. I have transgressed the individual liberation vows, transgressed the precepts of bodhisattvas, and transgressed the samayas of the great vehicle secret mantra. So these are often called the 3 vows sometimes. The 3 vows are the individual liberation vow, then the bodhisattva vow, and the great vehicle secret mantra vow. Within each of these vows, there are different sets of do's and don'ts. And so the individual liberation vows are the 5 precepts. So not to kill, not to steal, not to commit sexual misconduct, not to lie, and not to be intoxicated. The 5th one, over time you should, I don't often say this, over time, with the 5th one, you should develop to a point that there is no attraction to intoxicating drinks, to alcoholic drinks. Do you need to give up your occasional beer now? Well, I'm not going to say you have to. The main point there is intoxication. But if there is reliance on chilling the mind, right, which is why people are attracted to intoxication. It's like you cannot handle the mind as you find it now. Right? You want to relax. Right? If over time you can develop an ability to not rely on that, but even just no need anymore, no attraction, that is what you should work towards. Yeah. So these are the 5 lay precepts. Then the precepts of bodhisattvas, bodhisattva vow. So then there are various trainings related to the bodhisattva precepts. The main vow of bodhisattva vow is, of course, to achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. The essence of the individual liberation vows is to stop creating the causes of harm. And then the main vow of the great vehicle secret mantra is to be the Buddha that you are. To be the Buddha that you are. To actualize, to operate from a Buddha state. And then again, there are the different samayas of the 5 Buddha families. There are the 14 downfalls. So there are a lot of details that we can study, learn, and try to keep all these precepts and samayas of training. So these are the 3 vows. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards the 3 jewels. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my gurus and teachers. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my father and mother. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my companions. In the pure spiritual life, I have abandoned the sublime dharma and disparaged the noble sangha. In short, I now lay aside all faults and transgressions whatsoever that have become obstacles to the higher realms and to liberation, and that have become the cause for samsara and the lower realms. Before you, the great Guru Vajra holder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 times I expose the faults, I confess them. I am contrite, I regret them, I will not conceal them, I will not hide them. Henceforth I will restrain myself and abstain from them. If I do not expose and lay them aside, they will not be transformed. Therefore, by revealing and laying them aside, may they be cleared, may I be purified. So that is the more general laying aside. In the next section is the more Vajrayana style of laying aside. So we invoke the idams and the Guru. Namo to the mandala of you, victorious idam deities. Om, I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Vajra, exalted body. Ah, I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Padma, exalted speech. Hung, I expose and confess the broken samayas of the perfect exalted mind. Hri, I expose and lay aside the broken root and branch samayas. So the essence of Vajrayana Samaya is the Samaya of the Vajra exalted body, speech, and mind, which is form physical-wise always to manifest the form of Buddhas, to appear as Buddhas for yourself, for others, which is really the essence of idam practice. Idam practice, as we will talk about more soon, although the technique itself involves a lot of like visualizations, using kind of a creative and skillful use of your imagination, as well as corresponding to external actions, rituals, gestures, movements, chants, and so on and so forth. The essence of idam is to use these skillful methods so that we know how to be present in this world, how to presence ourselves. What self, what version of self are we presenting? Here, presenting don't mean like pretending. It means present. How are you present in this world for yourself and for others? Right now, from moment to moment, the self that presents itself is the confused samsaric self. What idam practice is aiming at is to drop the samsaric body and mind and allow the Buddha body and mind to become present from moment to moment, so that it becomes a wheel of momentary Buddha activities. How can we become a wheel? Wheel is the connotation of it goes on and on, right? A wheel doesn't stop. So there is the abiding nature is like a wheel. It doesn't stop. But within this abiding nature, even the appearance is momentary. So impermanence is not cancelled out, when you're Buddha. Right? The momentariness. So the momentariness is now from moment to moment, Buddha form, Buddha speech, Buddha mind is what turns up. Let Buddha take Buddha's place. And so, when it says here, broken samaya of exalted body, exalted speech, exalted mind, it means all those moments where instead of Buddha becoming present in that moment, is yet again confused Han, confused Susanna, confused Maurizio. Which means, effectively right now, every moment, we are breaking those samayas. Samaya means commitment. So we're breaking the commitment of waking up to who we truly are. And so that's why we have to do the laying aside. Lord Atisha said, he said, when I first received the individual liberation vow and therefore accepted the 250 plus trainings that the Buddha gave to the bhikshus, the fully ordained monks. He said, when I first received those trainings, after I took the individual liberation vow, every 2 weeks in the monastic cycle, ideally, every 2 weeks, the community gathers together to do a purification, a laying aside of mistakes with regards to the 250 rules of training. And Lord Atisha said, oh boy, every 2 weeks, there are things to clean. Then he said, later when I took the Bodhisattva vow, and then began to look at the Bodhisattva trainings, in one list, there are 16 major precepts and 48 minor. In some lists, it's 10 major and 48 minor, so on and so forth. But he said, there, because in the Bodhisattva training, it says that every 24 hours, you should do a cleaning, a confession. He said, and indeed, within the time frame of 24 hours, I always have things I need to clean. Then he said, when I then finally took empowerment and have samayas, he said, every moment I have a samaya that I need to clean. So that's how some people think, like, oh, I practice on the Vajrayana level, then I don't need all these things. Actually, Vajrayana level is not so easy at all. Sometimes we think, like, oh, no, I cannot be a monk, I cannot be a nun. Too many rules. But, oh, Vajra Samaya, yeah, I can, no problem. Now, it is true, before you freak out and you say, oh, I'm not going to practice Vajrayana. Then you will never have an exit from samsara, Now, before you panic and freak out, they also say, Buddha also say, however, even though in a way, right, the vows become tighter and tighter, they say. And that's the expression. But you should not practice the 3 levels of vows feeling more and more tight, although the expression is that the vows become increasingly tighter. In that sense, when it says tighter, it means the focus becomes more and more refined. More and more refined, more and more precise. Think of it that way, not tighter and tighter, yeah? And so although it becomes tighter and tighter, literally the language, yeah? However, when you break the individual liberation vows training, the breakage that happens, the way to restore that, is more involved. It's more involved. You have to retake the vows in front of preceptors. When you break bodhisattva vow, it's easier to restore it. Because the power of the vows are stronger, and it cannot really be so easily damaged. So it's easier to purify. And then finally, Vajra Samaya is even easier to purify. They do say that. One moment of thought has the capacity to clear, to clean your Samaya. Which is, if you can remember, bring to mind, I am Buddha. Then that purifies. Then more specifically, taking empowerment is a way to restore samayas. So that's why it's good, actually, from time to time, to take empowerments. Don't think of empowerments as, oh, I want to take this empowerment to practice this deity. I want to take that empowerment to practice that deity. I want to take that empowerment to practice that deity. Yes, empowerment sometimes, and often these days, have that level. But the real meaning of empowerment is to restore your confidence, to restore your remembering that you are Buddha, body, speech, and mind. So there is the samadhi empowerment that I've mentioned, which is using the power of your samadhi, your meditative stability, and using that as the method to take empowerment from the Guru directly, Guru Vajradhara. And daily practice of whatever sadhana that you practice is also has, whether explicitly or not so explicitly, has the taking of empowerment as well. Now page 7. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed knowingly. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed unknowingly. The 3 non-virtues of the body, the 4 non-virtues of speech, the 3 non-virtues of the mind. I confess each of the 10 non-virtues individually. This section here is, in a way, I would say, unique to Dugong Kagyu, because normally these 10 non-virtues are only associated with individual liberation vows. So in most other traditions, when they talk about individual liberation vows, they talk about these 10 non-virtues. When they talk about Vajra Samayas, they talk about something else. For Kyopa Jigden Sumgen, he says, at all 3 levels, whether it's the individual liberation level, the bodhisattva level, or the secret mantra level, they all involve the 10 non-virtues. In this individual liberation vow level, you avoid the 10 non-virtues. Why? Because you fear suffering. And therefore, you train to not create the causes of suffering. At the level of developing that, maturing that to the bodhisattva level, now why do you keep the 10 the precepts? You avoid the 10 non-virtues. Why do you do that? For the benefit of others. You can see how when you engage in the 10 non-virtues, not only do you create suffering for yourself, you create suffering for others. So then you avoid the 10 non-virtues for the sake of others. Furthermore, you avoid the 10 non-virtues for the sake of others, meaning now you know if you are to become Buddha, the only way you can become Buddha is if you avoid the 10 non-virtues. And why do you want to become Buddha? Not for yourself, for the sake of others. When this further matures to the secret mantra level, now at the secret mantra level, why do you avoid the 10 non-virtues? Because Buddhas do not engage in 10 non-virtues. Instead, Buddhas spontaneously and naturally, all the Buddha's actions of body, speech, and mind are the 10 virtues. And so here, in our Drigong tradition, here, even though we are confessing and laying aside the Vajrasamayas, damages to the Vajrasamayas, we still talk about the 10 non-virtues on a profound level. So here is one example of how, what Gyalpa Rinpoche means when he says, the ngondro, the foundational matters are truly profound. So Buddha taught the 10 virtues and the 10 non-virtues at the foundational level. There is superficial understanding of the 10 virtues and non-virtues. Then there are more profound understandings of the 10 virtues and non-virtues, and more profound and more profound and more profound. But they are all foundational matters, ngondro matters. The more you practice, the more you will realize how profound the so-called preliminaries, the so-called ABCs are. With faultless disciplined conduct, possessing completely pure disciplined conduct, and through the disciplined conduct that is free of arrogance, may the paramita of disciplined conduct be perfected. To glorious Vajrasattva I pay homage. Bhadra Sato Samaya Manobalaya Bazana Dinamadita Dinamasa to Memasu Bogaya Memanda Memasa was it Memaja Zamakamas Jamijan Guru Bagasa Bazama Memunja Bazabava Mahasamaya Sado Bazada Samaya Manobalaya Bazana Dinabadita Dinamasu to Gamasuboga. Anurato Memosa was in the Memaja Zamakamas Jamijan Guru How Bagamansa Badaka Bazama Jamizo Mahasamaya Sado Bazada Samaya Manobalaya Bazada Dinabadita. The Domemo as a dogam memo as a bogam memo and the memo as a was in a member just of Bagamas Jamajum Zeranguru, how Bagamans of the Ragadabazam Jamazibo Mahasamaya Sato, Omba Zerasato Samaya Manabalaya, Bazada, the Rabadida, the memo as a dogam memo as a bogam memo and the memo as a was in a member just of Bagamas Jamajum Zeranguru. How Bagaman Zavada Bazama Jabazibo Mahasamaya Sato, Umba Zera Sato Samaya Manubalaya, Bazada, the Rabadida, the was the members of Poemo. Anura Domebasa was the members of Bagamas Jamajum Zeranguru, how Bagaman Zavada Bazama Jabazibo Mahasamaya Sato, Umba Zera Sato Samaya Manubalaya, the Rabadida, the was the members of Poemo. Anura Domebasa was the members of Bagamas Jamajum Zeranguru, how Bagaman Zavada Bazama Jabazerbo Mahasamaya Sato, Umbazra Sato Samayam Anubalaya Bazada Denobadita. The Domebo was a Dogayo Memo, as a Bogayo Memo, and Nora Domemo was a member of Bagamas Jamajum Zeranguru, ha Bagaman Zavada Dagada, Bajrama Memo Jabazrebawa Mahasamaya Sato. Now to the main text, Fivefold Mahamudra, the jewel garland. Please go to the bottom of page 11. We'll do a brief mandala offering. Now, with the mudra and, putting a mala into the whole mudra, if you have a mala. If not, you put some rice grains, on your palms. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, four continents, sun and moon. I hold in mind as a Buddha land and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure land. To you, sublime gurus, I offer my body, possessions, and roots of virtue as an offering. Please accept them. To you, Idam deities, and you, noble three jewels, I offer my body, possessions, and roots of virtue as an offering. Please accept them, O gurus, idams, and noble three jewels. I pray that you generate supreme realization within me. And then, of course, the first fold of the fivefold is bodhicitta. And on page 11 is the first verse in this famous Fivefold Mahamudra song, where Kyopa Rinpoche says, if the steed of love and compassion does not run for the benefit of others, it will not be rewarded by gods or humans. Attend earnestly, therefore, to this foundational attitude. And so we keep cultivating bodhicitta. Bodhicitta that has these three aspects to it: unbiased and unlimited loving kindness, unbiased and unlimited compassion, leading to us making the vow to achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings, and making the vow to continue to commit to the practices that leads to that result. Then this bodhicitta, this mind, this awakened altruistic mind. So bodhicitta actually, I think in a lot of translations into English at least, and then maybe from English to Spanish, is translated as altruistic mind, altruistic heart. That's missing the awakened part. Bodhi means awaken, Bodhi doesn't mean altruistic actually. Bodhi mind. So if you want to say altruistic, which is part of it, of course, you have to say altruistic awakened mind. The two aspects. Altruistic, but awakened. And so this altruistic awakened mind, this Bodhi mind, turns into the Yidam. Practicing Idam is not practicing to become a tanka painting or to become a statue. The yogi, the practitioner, is not seeking to transform into a tanka painting or a bronze statue. No matter how well done, how beautiful, how inspiring these images are, that's not the goal of Idam practice. The goal or the purpose, maybe the purpose of Idam practice, is to manifest Buddha in the world. It's how do we become present in the world? How do we presence ourselves? We become present in the world because we are now already in the world. But whether this world is going to be experienced as the cycle of confusion or the cycle of clarity and compassion, we are making choices. Right now, actively or passively, we have chosen to be in the cycle of confusion. And so we experience this as samsara. Idam practice is to choose the cycle of clarity and compassion. So we now let this bodhicitta, this choice, this vow, manifest as Jakasamvara, as Demcho. So Jakasamvara is the main idam practice in the Kagyu lineage. The Kagyu lineage that comes from Gampopa, which is the combination of two streams, two important streams of Dharma that came from India to Tibet. One is represented by Marpa and Marpa's transmissions, and the other is represented by Atisha and Atisha's transmissions. And both Atisha came from India. Marpa was Tibetan, went to India. And both of them, among other things, they had many teachers actually in India, both Atisha and Marpa. Marpa and Atisha were contemporaries. Atisha was older than Marpa, but they were basically contemporaries. In fact, as Atisha was going, from Bengal in India, up over the Himalayas to Tibet, Marpa was coming down from southern Tibet towards India, Nepal. And it said that they met at the border regions. And in fact, Atisha tried to convince Marpa that there's no need to go to India and Nepal. Just come with Atisha to work together with Atisha, because Marpa learned Sanskrit and was able to translate. And Atisha was hoping Marpa would, be his interpreter, translator. But Marpa was determined to go south. So then Marpa went south and Atisha went north. Both these streams came to the person of Thakpo Rinpoche Gampopa. Then from there, the Kagyu tradition that we know today mostly come from Thakpo Rinpoche Gampopa. Of course, Marpa had other disciples, but the most famous among his disciples, at least famous for us, is Milarepa. And Milarepa was one of Gampopa's teachers, perhaps the most important teacher. Milarepa's Milarepa's main idam practice was Jakasamvara. And then he gave that practice, or encouraged Gampopa to also practice Jakasamvara. I believe Gampopa himself, not I believe as in I like to believe, but I read and I believe I have not remembered wrongly, that Gampopa himself had already received empowerments and instructions in Jakasamvara practice, which he got from his Kadampa teachers. Atisha also had that, because, what I forgot to say, both Atisha and Marpa also had Naropa as their teachers, as their teacher. That's the major connecting point. So Atisha had been Naropa's Naropa is Indian. Naropa is student before Marpa came and met Naropa. So in that way, Atisha is the elder Dharma brother of Marpa. So Gampopa has this Jakasamvara. Now, when Marpa met Naropa in India, his main teacher, Naropa saw that Marpa's karmic connection is with a different deity, a different idam. The name of that idam is Hevajra. And so Marpa especially practiced Hevajra. And Naropa gave Marpa very extensive teachings on the Hevajra. And at that time in India, one of the main texts of Hevajra practice, called the Hevajra Tantra in 2 sections, so much so that today it's actually in Tibetan writings, it's called the 2 sections, and everyone knows, they're talking about the Hevajra Tantra in 2 sections. So much so that, and at that time, in the Vajrayana circles in India, many were explaining all the main principles of Vajrayana practice by relying on the Hevajra in 2 sections. Like Vajrayana theory, Vajrayana, kind of philosophy, mostly during that time, was explained through the Hevajra Tantra in 2 sections. So Marpa was taught that by Naropa. Then one day, it is said, Marpa and Naropa was walking along the banks of river Ganga, the Ganges River. Suddenly Naropa turned to look northwards towards the snow mountains, and he composed, kind of spontaneously, he uttered a stanza in 4 lines, praising some great being that is in the snow mountains. Then Marpa said, who is this, And Naropa said, actually, this is one of your future disciples. And he was talking about Milarepa. So Naropa, through the power of his clairvoyance, could see that among Marpa's disciples will be this one person called that will very powerfully kind of embody everything that Marpa have realized, and will benefit beings in the future. Later, not on the same occasion, I think, Naropa said to Marpa, remember that disciple that I told you about? And Marpa said, yeah, of course, Naropa said, when he does turn up, his karmic connection is not with Hevajra, your main idam. Instead, his karmic connection is with Jakasamvara. And so when the time comes, you encourage him to practice Jakasamvara as idam, because that's where his karmic connection is. And so Milarepa eventually turns up after Marpa goes back, right? And then Milarepa started to practice Jakasamvara. Gampopa comes along many years later. Gampopa already has background in Jakasamvara, probably also in Hevajra. Then, because Milarepa trained Gampopa, then Gampopa kept his focus on Jakasamvara. And then from Gampopa down to the rest of the Kagyu family, mainly Jakasamvara is the idam. Now, as for the specific lineage of transmission, it doesn't mean, just as a side, as a footnote, it doesn't mean that everyone in the Dapokagyu, when they practice Chakasamvara, necessarily the particular empowerment lineage they have and the practice lineage they have, it doesn't mean that they necessarily go to Gampopa and Gampopa to Milarepa, interestingly. To me, this just shows the kind of the fluidity and the diversity in this early period, where sectarian identity wasn't at all so strong. For sure, people understood different teachers have different styles, making different emphasis, but there wasn't this territoriality necessarily. Yeah. So in fact, the particular Chakasamvara that we practice in the Drigong, the main lineage, although we also have the other transmissions, but the main five deity Chakasamvara practice that we have, which is this one here, the lines of transmission is from Jigten Sumgun, of course, Jigten Sumgun to his teacher Pamodrupa, and then Pamodrupa to Galotsawa, not Gampopa. Because Pamodrupa earlier on received Chakasamvara from Galotsawa, another Tibetan who went to India to train and came back. So probably Gampopa did not see necessity to have Pamodrupa kind of switch and say, oh, you have to do the one that I got from my teacher. So no problem, It just shows the kind of fluidity of this early period without the territoriality of like, oh, you are there, and I'm here, and this and that. No. In fact, we know that many times in Gampopa's life, when he was already a teacher, when people would come and seek instructions, people went to disciples came to teachers like Gampopa, Pamodrupa, Kyopa Jigten Sumgun, mainly to seek instructions for meditation. Not philosophy, not ritual, not magic. Magic is a respected field of studies, Not those things. And not even empowerments necessarily. Because we have evidence, when people came to Gampopa, he said, you want instructions on this Vajrayana topic? Do you have the proper empowerment or not? Have you received a Chakasamvara empowerment? Have you taken a Chakasamvara empowerment? Have you taken a Hevajra empowerment? And sometimes the person seeking instructions will say, no, I don't have, And then Gampopa would say, well, in that case, why don't you go to this place, like 2 valleys away or somewhere, maybe to test their resolve, Gampopa would say, you go over there. There is one Lama there who routinely gives this empowerment. Go receive that empowerment, then come back. I will teach you. He did that. And some of these people, they go there and they never come back. Well, Gampopa was in a way testing. Not only testing whether these people are serious or not, I'm sure, also testing to see, or perhaps Gampopa could see, no, not enough karmic connection, so I'm going to direct them that way. And so he wasn't a jealous teacher. But at other times, it's basically he's saying, no, you go receive it there, then come back, I will teach you. And many also did that. So that's why Gampopa already have Galotsawa lineage of 5 deity Chakasamvara. Then no need to like redo, you know. Gampopa then insists like, oh, let me give you, you know. So receiving empowerment, taking empowerment, actually the verb usually used is taking. Receive sounds so passive, you know. No, you cannot get empowerment that way. You have to take. It's an active process. So you have to participate. And in that way, you know, like watching Gajen Rinpoche, for example, and because Gajen Rinpoche emphasized this, other lamas may not, and even some other lamas, great lamas, will say, no, not possible to take empowerment this way. But Gajen Rinpoche very explicitly say, no, I believe it is possible, and so if you have faith in me, if you trust what I'm saying, then you try to take it by even watching the recording. Some lamas will say, no, the substances are important. The physical objects are important. Yes, there are many aspects you can emphasize. And different teachers have different reasons. So also, where is your karmic connection, right? So anyway, I can say, you know, all Drigungpas greatly respect and admire Gajen Rinpoche's realizations. And so many of us trust, you know, yes, you can. And in fact, some will say, you know, they got more out of receiving, taking the empowerment by watching, because less distracted by all the things that are going on, all the people that are all around, right? And especially if you are first time or second time or even the 10th time you're going to some empowerment ritual, it's quite intimidating. People are telling you, do this, don't do that, don't do this, you know, and you're just all flustered, like what is going on? So especially for beginners, you know, you watch that, it's just completely, you know, you and Rinpoche, so to say. Then you can more. But again, don't approach that with, you know, I want all my answers. I want all my questions answered. No, just take whatever you can. So again, we have this weekend. If you don't have this empowerment, try to take it from Gajen Rinpoche. I'm going to send it to the WhatsApp group that we have for the daily practice group called the Daily Mahamudra Practice. You should be on it. If you are not on it, try to get on it. Find someone here. They must have the information. And then try to take it. Then eventually, you know, like next week, you know, we will start looking at the Chakasamvara, the Idam section. Just as a footnote, Kyoba Rinpoche also says, you know, if you don't have a Idam, you can have my Idam, which he says his Idam is Avalokiteshvara. So on Monday, I will explain. I've already explained before, some of you may remember. How come he says his Idam is Avalokiteshvara? But in all this Fivefold Mahamudra is the 5 deity Chakasamvara. Why? So there are 2 ways in which Tibetan tradition speaks of Idam, briefly. One is close to their heart. Which deity is closest to their heart? In that sense, it is Avalokiteshvara for Kyoba Rinpoche. But, so that's Idam in the sense of what's like closest to their heart. Then there's Idam in the sense of the sophisticated Vajrayana technology for transforming the five aggregates and the five elements into Buddha state. Then, for Kyopa Rinpoche, is the Chakkasamvara, not just as deity, but the Chakkasamvara as a system of transformation. Does that make sense? The first one is more a heart emotional connection to a deity. And for Kyopa Rinpoche is the Buddha of compassion, Avalokiteshvara. But as developed technology of transformation is through the Chakkasamvara system, with Chakkasamvara as the deity. Likewise, you will hear Gajen Rinpoche saying, his idam is white Tara. His idam is white Tara. That is the heart connection. Generally, anyone that asks for advice for what practice to do, more often than not, Rinpoche will say, practice white Tara, practice white Tara. But as a tantric technology of transformation, it's Yamantaka, the wrathful Manjushri system. So Rinpoche famously would do these 10 days strict retreats. Now people want to go to those retreats with Rinpoche. They have to draw lots by lottery system. Way too many people want to do these 10-day retreats with Gajen Rinpoche. That's clearly, who knows ultimately, it could be some other idam. But as far as we can see, that's Gajen Rinpoche's main idam in terms of sophisticated tantric technology to bring about the transformation of the aggregates and the elements into Buddha state. So there are fivefold Mahamudra manuals that instead of having Chakkasamvara as the idam, uses Avalokiteshvara. But not so common, but they exist. This one that we have, and most of the fivefold Mahamudra manuals have Chakkasamvara as the idam. Okay? So let's dedicate merit at the end. And today I want you to look at page 23 of the opening and dedication prayer. I'm not going to recite from beginning to end, so you take your cue from me. I'm going to skip or stop before all of it. Great Vajradhara Tilipa Naropa Marpa Milarepa Dharma Logampo Papa Modrupa and Conqueror Drikungpa, please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessings of all Yukagyu Gurus. May I, by this merit, may I achieve the all-knowing state. May all who wander on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating enemies of faults and delusions. By the virtues collected in the 3 times in samsara and nirvana and the innate virtue, and in the primordially co-emergent mandala of the mind, may I realize the exalted intention of Jigten Kumpo, the indivisibility of the 2 truths in the exalted form of Vajradhara. In all lifetimes, may I never be separated from the perfect Gurus, but enjoy the richness of the glorious Dharma. Having thoroughly perfected the exalted qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. May the 80,000 classes of obstructors be pacified. thus freeing this place from unfavorable and harmful conditions. May harmonious and excellent endowments be established, and with this auspiciousness bring about bliss and happiness. May there be well-being in the world, and good harvest may yield of grain and flourish of dharma. Much may auspiciousness be established in all places, and all that is wished for fulfilled. May the collection of favorable conditions and resources for the Dharma, for ourselves and others, be fulfilled according to our wishes. May the multitudes of diseases, evil spirits, obstructors, hindrances, and others be appeased and pacified. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray for the excellent health of the Gurus, and may the Guru's supreme life be long. May the Guru's activities spread far and wide, and may I be blessed not to be separated from the Guru. One page back, page 27, the Tibetan for the Bodhicitta dedication. Chanchu Semcho Rinpoche Ma Ge Panam Ge Gyurche Ge Pa Nyam Pa Me Pa Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Bewar Shou. Okay, I'll see all of you on Monday. In case you are practicing Ladrup, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then don't worry about it. But a reminder, in case you're practicing Ladrup, tomorrow on Zoom at 11, we have a Ladrup session.
Thank you,
Gracias,
Rinpoche.
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 Thank you, Dr.
Gracias.
Lai.